Now, good. Thank you for being here. Let's stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you very much. All right, it's going to be an exciting evening, okay? So we got a few housekeeping rules to do tonight. Let's just say suggestions. We won't say rules, just suggestions. All right, my name is Terry Landreth. I'll be your MC for tonight. And Dr. Janet Bradford is with us tonight also. She'll be the moderator. Got some wonderful candidates tonight. And come on in, folks. We set up some folks coming in. We're fine. Come on in. All right, a lot of things going on tonight. Exciting evening. We hope that you get informed tonight. We've had a meet and greet up front. We're going to have some question and answer times coming up. And then afterwards, if you still have some questions for the candidates, they'll be here also for you. Till about 8 o'clock tonight. And then we have to vacate Sure Stay. That's a long ways away. Welcome to the forum. So tonight, it's about the candidates. Okay? Once you get to know them. Once you get to know them real well and listen to the questions. But if you didn't get something answered, please make yourself available after the question and answer period this evening. I'm just trying to keep this on point here because I'd love to say something about all of them, but we need to keep this rolling and do the right thing here. So let's move. I just appreciate all of them signing up, registering, and being part of the election process in St. Mary's. I really do appreciate that, and we should all appreciate that. Okay? All right. It's all about them tonight. Turn those cell phones off. Turn those cell phones off, okay? If you need a restroom break, just get up and exit to the back and go down the hallway, okay? It's going to keep moving tonight. Once we start, it's going to move. It's going to be all the time for the candidates for the question and answers. We're going to keep it moving, okay? Candidates, couple of rules. 3 minutes. I'm the timekeeper. Dr. Bradford has a nice little dinner bell if you go over. I have a big cowbell, okay, if you get crazy with it, okay? But for gentleness, we have a little 30-second rule, okay? That'll come up nice and quiet. It'll move through there. Just keep everything moving. You don't want the cowbell, okay? After the cowbell comes a hook, okay? All right, just make sure. Housekeeping rules here, candidate. To my far right, Steve Connor. Steve Connor, this is all post number 2. Chad Ingram, Ken Jelly, Jay Marino, post number 3, and Danny Reagans, post number 3. Okay. All right. Guess what it's time for? It's time for questions. Okay. You guys excited? I am. All right. So the questions are going to go to Steve Connor first, just in case you didn't know that, Steve. Okay. It's alphabetical order, the way it's set up, and then the rotation will pass on one to the next. So we'll keep it moving, keep it flowing, just so you know the order of business there. Each candidate, like I said, will have 3 minutes to respond. There's a nice little card of 30 seconds remaining, and then a nice little dinner bell, and then after that, get the hook. Okay. All right. I'd like to introduce Dr. Janet Bradford. Get all my props.
Good afternoon, and thank you very much. We're going to start first. Before we do any questions, we're going to ask each of the candidates to take 3 minutes to tell us whatever it is they want us to know about themselves, okay? So we will start with Mr. Jelly.
Thank you, Doctor.
I'm sorry to interrupt. There's a couple of things that we need to, because of time considerations, I'm going to ask each of the candidates to stay in their seat when they speak.
Okay.
Okay. And the intent was for Connor to do the first opening
but then he wouldn't get the first question. So,
opening statements. First question, second question.
okay.
Okay, I'm sorry
So,
for the
no.
confusion.
Okay. Well,
Ladies and gentlemen, what we're trying to do is make this as compact as possible and not lose any time in between questions. Thank you.
okay. So if you didn't hear, we're going to ask the candidates to stay seated, and we're going to work our way down this way. And if I'm not doing it correctly, Tom's going to come back up here and tell me how to do it. So, Mr. Connor, if you would, please, 3 minutes.
Hey, first of all, I want to say thank you very much for all you guys coming out tonight. It makes me feel good to see all you guys out there. You're interested in the city of St. Mary's. I'm interested in it too. I'm going to make this very sweet and short. My name's Stephen Connor. I'm a 1980 graduate of Camden County High School. I've been in education for 38 years. 34 of those years have been in the Camden County schools. I was a football, baseball coach for 17 years. And for the last 21 years, I've been in a leadership role as the athletic director for both middle schools in our school system. I love the city of St. Mary's, and I want to put some sweat in the bucket and get the job done and work hard for the citizens.
Good job, Coach. My name's Chad Ingram. I'm from St. Mary's originally. I've been here my whole life. I'm 44 years old. I do call him Coach because he was my baseball coach. Coach Connor's a great guy. But I've been in St. Mary's most of my life. I've recently moved back downtown St. Mary's. And just throughout my life, as life experiences happen, I've been in sales for over 20 years. I've been in sales leadership, team building, and I've done a lot that I feel that I can apply towards the principles towards St. Mary's. There's just a lot of things in St. Mary's that are very good, but there's a lot of things that I feel need changed, and that's what I, intend to do if you guys, see fit to elect me to represent, the voice of the people of St. Mary's, and make things as efficient as possible, and make St. Mary's that friendly place that it should be. So I know that we'll get a lot more into this as we, have the questions and answers, and then afterwards, I'd like to, sit down with anybody I didn't talk to, before this started in the first hour. So thank you.
Thank you, Chad. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for coming this evening. Again, this is a very important forum, and I'm very pleased to see such a wonderful turnout. So my name is Ken Jelley. That's Jelley. So if you forget that second E, it sort of makes for a sticky situation. I first came down here with the Simon Lake. Brought it down here July 2nd, 1979, and have pretty much been here ever since. I brought the Canopus in when it came, went back to the Simon Lake to finish up the overhaul in Pascagoula, Mississippi, and then back here as the nuclear repair officer on the Canopus. Majority of my military career has been in nuclear submarines, and I've had an awful lot of experience with training, seminars. I've been placed in several leadership roles, and when I first came to St. Mary's, I thought, what a quaint little town. And as time passed, the little town got a little bigger, but it stayed quaint. I thought that was just a tremendous asset for the entire community. The residents were doing a really great job. That's why I want to stay here. That's why I want to live here for the rest of my life with my wife, Donna. So we live in Shadow Lawn, and I thought that I could best serve our community by running for city council. And I want to make St. Mary's your and my vacation destination. We want to keep the money here. We want to make sure that we keep this a nice, friendly community and not let it just simply become a Mayberry RFD. I want to serve you as your councilman. Thank you.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for coming this evening. I'm Jay Marino. I'm a native of Savannah, Georgia. I'm 74 years old. Any other biographical information you'd like to have on me is readily available on my table back here in this back left corner. Rather than spending a lot of time on that, let me just tell you that I moved here on a business-related move on August the 3rd of 1993. So I've been here over 29 years. It'll be 30 this coming August. Obviously, I like it here. I will be here until such time as the Navy hauls me out to sea and buries this old Chief Petty Officer. So I'm not going anywhere. The reason I'm running, and let me just say this, trust me when I tell you that in this race, I am not the preferred candidate of your mayor and council. My being elected is going to be their worst nightmare, and I'll tell you why. This mayor and council of late, by which I mean the last several years, has become increasingly more secretive with the things that they do and plan that are above and beyond providing basic city services. And we don't find out about it as tax-paying citizens until it's almost a fait accompli that lacks only a vote at a council meeting to be a done deal. The most recent example is when 2 or 3 weeks ago, I get up in the morning, I go online, and there's my online edition of the Tribune and Georgian. And lo and behold, on the front page above the fold is the announcement that your mayor and council had decided, without any consultation with any of us, or us not knowing a thing in the world about it, to spend $3 million of our money beautifying all of St. Mary's Road from exit 1 on down past the entire frontage of Osprey Cove. And they had the audacity to think that we would be stupid enough to believe the story they told, totally bogus, that the reason for that action was to increase sales in downtown merchant shops. That, ladies and gentlemen, was a bald-faced lie. The real reason is that's just the down payment on the millions of dollars they're getting ready to throw at the Rayonier Corporation, okay, which is getting ready to build what I'll call Wildlight 2.0 at Exit 1. If you're not familiar with that, get familiar with it real quick, because it's going to bite us all. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Danny Riggins. I'd like to thank everybody in the audience that's here tonight. I'd like to thank everybody at home that's tuning in to learn more about the candidates for the city council. I've lived here all my life, a little over 70 years to be exact. I love St. Mary's with all my heart. I have my 87-year-old mother, some of my kids, grandkids, and a large part of my extended family call St. Mary's home. So I do have nobody loves St. Mary's probably any more than I do. Maybe as much as I do, but probably no more. But anyway, I worked at White Oak Plantation for 22 years, where I was a manager. I worked a good many of those years directly for Howard Gilman. Then I had the opportunity in 2005 to build and construct a new business here called Coastal Car Care. I'm a co-owner with 2 other business partners, and I'm proud to say that we're a very successful business and we have a very loyal customer base. But when I announced my candidacy to run for city council, probably just like the other candidates, I had a lot of people come to me and say, oh gosh, I want St. Mary's not to change. I want it to remain the same as it was when we were growing up. And then another group of people will come to you and say, I want St. Mary's to change. I want it to grow. What are we going to do? So that's why I made my campaign slogan to respect the past and embrace the future. I believe we could have both of best of both worlds. I believe we need to keep that small town charm, and some things don't need to be changed, but we have got to grow. We've got to have positive growth. We've got to bring in business, jobs. We've got to do it because our taxpayer money is not enough revenue to keep running our city the way it needs to be run. We need to grow, and I think it needs to be done in a positive way. I think my experience in almost 40 years of management and in the business world, I've learned how to do a budget, a payroll, hire people. I've learned how to treat people. I'm a people person. I got the work record to back it up. And I know how to listen to people. I think I can extend all those skills over to serving you on city council. Okay. That was quick.
Time flies when you're having fun. Okay. So how this is going to work, I am going to get my steps in tonight because I'm going to walk and give each of you a copy of each question, and then I will come back to the podium and I will ask the question. So you're all getting a copy of the same question, and I'll give you the mic. Not until I ask the question. So as a reminder, and I'm sorry? Oh, okay. All right. So I told y'all, Tom was going to make sure I do this right. Okay, so is it on? It's on. You know, I can talk loud enough without this thing, but I'm going to pretend I'm using the mic, and Mr. Ingram will get the first question. I'm going to read it. As a reminder, each one of you has 3 minutes to respond, and you'll get the 30-second flag. Can you hold that up again, please? So as you're talking, I know it's a little distracting, but as you're talking, when you see that 30 seconds go up, just kind of think, okay, I need to sort of wrap it up. And then after about 30 more seconds, then I'm going to kind of do the little bell. I'm going to try to be nice about it. So we can keep this moving. Yes.
One thing before we start. We're going to let him answer the question thoughtfully. We're going to save our applause to the end. Time for that. So just make sure that we can keep everything moving. But excitement, we want to hold those applause.
Okay. First question. This is for Mr. Ingram. During the past few years, downtown St. Mary's has greatly benefited from city planning, various grants, and tax dollars. Now, regarding your vision, what can and should be done to improve conditions and utilization of Midtown and other parts of St. Mary's?
There we go. Sorry, I can hear myself now. So yes, downtown is obviously, where our tourism is going to happen. Downtown's our historic district. Downtown's our waterfront, and it's a very important area to St. Mary's. But in order for that downtown area to thrive, all of St. Mary's has to thrive. You can't have Midtown with every other business or building being vacant or vacated and expect a beautification of St. Mary's to happen. We have to be open arms and business friendly. We have to attract those small businesses and to get these buildings open. And at the current rate we're going, we got more out than coming in the last couple of years, it seems. So we definitely want to have open arms and be as friendly and helpful as possible, getting those small businesses and recruiting those things to start and open up. As far as just other parts of the city, I was just speaking with someone tonight, about some of the shortcomings I've heard of other subdivisions besides downtown, like what they get out of Public Works as far as, mowings, getting your grass cut, then that includes getting your storm ditches, your storm drainage mowed and the obstructions out of that. So I understand that Public Works is roughly 9 workers short right now. We've got to do a good job of making sure that we can fill those positions and to make sure we're paying the right wage to get those positions filled. And to be able to get our Public Works out there to take care of just maintaining the St. Mary's that we have. We did just spend that, $3 million beautification budget, but, we've had things there that would look a lot better if we just had enough people to mow the grass and trim the trees up. Coming from that exit 1 up to Osprey Cove there, yes, just about everybody that comes into St. Mary's is going to come from that direction, and it's very important. But we've got those crepe myrtle trees. They've been there for years, and they look like bushes right now. Nobody trims up the bottoms of them, makes them look like a tree, and lets them have that growth. So, versus a $3 million project, that's, going to put a lot of money into that area, we should have just started with cutting the grass and trees that we have there and trimming those things up. So, I've got a lot of thoughts and ideas on all parts of St. Mary's. We have, a lot of thought gets put into downtown more so than the rest of it, just because it is that, historic district and waterfront. But you're not going to, again, have the traction that you want it to have without everybody in St. Mary's being happy and looking to the tip-top shape that it should within reason. So I got the little 30-second marker, and I'm getting waved off, so I'll stop now.
Thank you. So there's really 2 questions here. The first is regarding my vision, and we're going to talk about utilization and conditions of Midtown first. Then we'll go on to the second part, which talks about other parts of St. Mary's. Coming into St. Mary's, visitors and residents alike are met with a nice clean road, a nice entrance over Dark Entry Creek, Burrell Creek, into downtown St. Mary's, which has some metropolis effect. And then we get into Midtown, where we see rusty roofs, concrete fronts to buildings, broken buildings, empty lots for sale. That problem has to be looked at from a revitalization standpoint. What does that mean? Right now, merchants, prospective businesses can move in. They can set up their stores, and there's little control over what that front looks like. For those of you who have ever been to Helen, Georgia, they turned that little town around simply by invoking some very easy, but nonetheless strict ordinances. Those ordinances deal with what the front of your business looked like. All of a sudden, here came the tourists. They loved it. They loved the looks of that little Swiss village. Once you're inside the shops are the same. But it became a very attractive town. Their goal was achieved. Their goal was very simple. We want to make Helen, Georgia, your vacation destination. The only way we can do that and bring in more tax dollars and increase our tax base is by making Midtown look great. I think that can be done, and I think it can be done very reasonably from a financial standpoint. The second part of the question is, what about other parts of St. Mary's? I don't want to run out of time, so I'll simply say that in today's environment especially, we have younger people coming in. They want to buy a home. It's a husband and wife, maybe no children yet. And then we have older individuals coming in. They want to buy a home. they are ready to downsize. They've already had their large 3, 4, 5-bedroom home. There's absolutely a need for a smaller home downtown St. Mary's where we have property that can be changed, it can be reutilized, and we can put smaller homes in there and make everybody happy. Thank you.
Thank you. In a community the size of ours, which is roughly between 18 and 19,000 people, it is an inalterable fact of life that the center of your commercial district is always going to be your Walmart supercenter. I'm sure some of you have been here long enough to recall when it was, in fact, more centrally located in St. Mary's. And once they moved, everything pretty much moved down that way. In terms of medical aggregation of medical professionals, that's obviously by the hospital. The point I'm getting to is that there is no anchor, if you will, anywhere in this midtown area, which I would roughly define as from where we're sitting down to, say, Addie's. Obviously, when those buildings were constructed and those permits were let, city planning apparently was a new and unheard of concept here in St. Mary's, because you've got a hodgepodge of residences, commercial. So I think one of the first things the city council needs to do is to decide, is it going to be all commercial? Is it going to be all residential along Osborne there? Or is it going to be some hybrid combination? I think probably the hybrid combination where maybe you have a business on the ground floor and residences on the second and even the third floor may well be the solution to the problem. And as far as some sort of an anchor, although it won't compare to, say, a Walmart, I'm advocating, and have been for some time since they put the Express Scripts building up for sale, 90,000 square feet for $1.8 million, 20 cents a square foot. We could move out of that dilapidated, grossly inadequate city hall where the city clerk is in a broom closet, for God's sake, and has no more room to move around than like 2 phone booths. We could move City Hall and all city offices and the senior center into 90,000 square feet for 20 cents a square foot. I've suggested this repeatedly to the mayor and council and have been pointedly ignored, because I think that they're planning on putting a new city hall out in Wildlight 2.0 at Exit 1, where they're going to throw millions of dollars at Rayonier, because Rayonier is threatening to be voluntarily annexed into Kingsland if we don't throw millions of dollars at them. Their property that they're going to develop as a mixed commercial residential development, it's going to be huge, is now in the county. So they're playing this game with our mayor and council, like, if you don't give us what we want, we'll go into Kingsland. I don't believe they'll do that. What y'all might not realize is just recently, after that was announced, the city council at the next meeting added a new ordinance to our ordinances saying that if that developer will put a little kiddie park, like maybe one building lot in each 150 homes, the city will pay 50% of all of their costs to bring in water, sewer, a fire station, everything. Thank you.
Okay. In the meeting I was in, the council meeting, talking about the beautification project, the council didn't approve the $3 million. They approved the concept. I'm not saying I'm for or against that idea out there. We certainly need to know a whole lot more about it. The funding, we're a long ways from there. But Jay touched on a little bit about Walmart when it moved out, but I'm going to go back a little bit further back. Living in downtown St. Mary's area all my life, we had Roland's Grocery, we had the post office, we had a gas station or two downtown, and Walmart came in over here to the Midtown shopping plaza and sucked the life out of downtown St. Mary's. Closed down all those businesses. They spent a short period of time out here, and next thing you know, they moved out here. And it sucked the life out of Midtown. So there again, I think that's why we need to be a friendly business city here, a lot more friendlier than we have been. I think we've come a long ways in the last 2 or 3 years since we've made some changes at City Hall. But we have got to attract businesses. We have got to do something to attract them, make them want to locate here. And yes, we've done a lot to downtown, but there is more to St. Mary's than downtown. It's Midtown. My business is in the west part of St. Mary's. You know, St. Mary's goes all the way out to Mush Bluff, Crooked River Plantation, in that area, Point Peter. So we've got to figure out a way that we can attract these businesses, be more business friendly. Yeah, when you ride down 40, there's so many empty buildings. You know, if you have a beautification project out there, oh well. But when you come on into Midtown, it's disappointing. It really, Midtown needs a lot of attention. And how do we do that? Chad talked about public works and not being able to do drainage and mowing like we need to. But we got to attract businesses here. Our tax property revenue is not enough, people. We have got to grow in a positive way. We have got to attract more businesses to Midtown, downtown, all the way out to Crooked River Plantation.
Thank you. Mr. Connor?
Yes, ma'am.
Boy, I tell you, with all that being said, it took a lot of things straight from my mouth that I was going to say, but I'm going to say them anyway. Y'all, we need to make absolutely sure that all areas in St. Mary's are treated the same. You know, I'm for growth, but I'm for growth that needs to be managed. We need to make absolutely sure when we're growing, we need to manage that growth in an efficient and effective manner. And that starts with the city council. That starts with the mayor. That starts with whoever, the city manager, the planner, whatever, you know, in that. You know, I hear from people, and I don't know if there's any truth in it at all, that it seems like St. Mary's is harder to build in and this, that, and the other, and open up new things and all this other stuff. And I don't know if there's any truth in that, because I'm just a public person here running for city council. And at the end of the day, I want to be your servant. I don't want to be a politician. With that being said, if there is any red tape that's keeping people from not being able to build, expand, grow, we need to step back and take a look at it. We need to take a step back and look at it from the city council's viewpoint, and to make sure that we do a better job. Not saying that they've done a poor job, because they haven't done a poor job. Now, when we talk about Midtown, man, I tell you something, I'd love to see it grow. It seems like whenever Walmart left, you know, that whole area, and there's a lot of open spaces, you know, and it's been like that for a while. And we can focus on that and hopefully get more businesses in. But in order for us to get those businesses in, we've got to make it attractive. We've got to make it attractive, bottom line. You know what I'm saying? We got to make the tax space attractive for those people to come in, and this, that, and the other. But if I happen to get elected, I'm going to grow with the program, learn more about actually what's going on, and do the very best I possibly can for all citizens in the St. Mary's. I want to see all areas thrive. Not just downtown, but all areas. Revitalization, I'm all for it. growth, I'm all for it as long as we can maintain some type of regulations on that. That's about all I got, guys. Thank you.
I'm going to pass them out again. Question number 2. The city's storm water management plan is approved and ready for implementation. What additional staff and infrastructure challenges do you foresee for the city to prepare for and accommodate the profusion of housing units that are planned and expected during the next few years? Mr. Jelly.
Thank you, Doctor. This is a big problem, in my opinion, for the city. The infrastructure that we have right now is strained as it is. I'm talking about stormwater. I'm talking about our water delivery system, as well as our sanitary waste system. With the huge increase in housing units and the tremendous demand that is going to be placed on the city to support that infrastructure for all of this city's services, is going to be a challenge of disproportionate means. The cost is going to be extensive. The manpower that exists right now today in Public Works, in order to be able to maintain that infrastructure, just isn't there. We do not have the people. There are a lot of reasons why. This is going to be a significant challenge for the city. Where are they going to get the workers? Where are they going to get the additional equipment? And who's going to pay for it? So where can this money come from? We know the housing is going in. That's going to happen. The city is obligated to put in that infrastructure of water, storage, and drainage. Our tax base is relatively limited. The majority of our taxes are coming from property taxes levied on our residents. There is some extra money available in the city, there always is, in the city's budget, in order to buffer some of that cost. I don't think there's going to be enough to properly buffer it and keep our tax base to the point where it's not going to spill over into the pockets of our residents. This is going to happen fairly soon. The city is going to be faced with a significant challenge because they're going to have to put this infrastructure in. They may have to borrow from Peter to pay Paul in that regard. But the infrastructure is going to continue to be a requirement, not only for these new homes, but also for our existing homes. We do need to bring this tax base up. That's the bottom line. We need money. The city cannot operate without money. Right now, the majority of that comes from our residents. One of my visions is we have to bring this tax base up. We have to increase it, and we increase it by bringing in bigger business, larger business, not to detract from the downtown St. Mary's, but to enhance it. And I can discuss those items with you later. I've got a stop sign in front of me. Thank you very much.
For the last 6 weeks or so, I've been secluded in my bedroom office, cranking out 3,500 pieces of campaign mail. So I can't attest to whether or not we've had the traditional parading of our 2 Great All units, which usually happens just before elections. You know, the city pulls those out and ostentatiously cleans up a few ditches. then they get put back and they're not used for months, if not years. With regards to handling the drainage problem in planned urban development, the subdivisions pretty much take care of themselves because they're required to have adequate retention ponds. It's only what happens to that water after it leaves the retention pond in an overflow situation that presents a problem as far as additional drainage and what have you. We need to be very certain that for all of these subdivisions, and particularly the infilling of houses where people are buying lots, combining lots downtown, they're tearing down old mill houses and building new houses. That's the area outside of new subdivisions. That's where we need to be most vigilant with the drainage situation. Speaking of drainage, out at Crooked River Plantation, I'm sure you're all familiar with the god-awful problems they have with flooding out there. At some point in time, way back when in the 80s, I think it was, early 80s, when Mr. Morton was building those homes, he had to submit plans for that subdivision to the city planning and zoning people. It's very obvious to me that the city planning and zoning at that time dropped the ball in a major way, because if you've ever been out there, especially when it's quite rainy, you'll see that what was then touted as an innovative system of inverted roadways where the roads are sloped down to a kind of a little V in the middle, that was supposed to be adequate drainage. It clearly was not. So one of the things that I intend to do on council is go back and look at all the engineering studies that have been done, and we need to figure out what our moral and or legal obligation is to those people, given that they were grossly failed by having the city approve those plans years ago when they should not have. And we do, in fact, need way more people at Public Works. That's obvious. Thank you.
Okay, that's a pretty good question. As far as the stormwater management plan, I think of downtown, all the flooding we have down there, and all the taxpayers' money we've thrown at that. To me, wastefully. There's not much, folks. There's not much we can do about Mother Nature. I've lived here all my life, and that if you live on the coast, you're gonna have flooding. So, as far as downtown, that's how I feel about that. But Ken was talking about the tax base, tax base, and the manpower. There again, we don't have enough money coming in the coffers off of property taxes. We have got to grow our businesses. I keep harping on this, but yes, Ken, we need big industries in here. We need more tax base on the books. We can't do it the way we're going. Yes, we have a lot of problems in Crooked River Plantation. We have a very big shortage of manpower. I see it in my business. It's all across the country. What can we do to get that tax base up, attract more workers, and keep everything mowed, keep the ditches dug out properly all over the city, but especially out there, like Jay said. We have got to figure out a way that we can service all this community, and we can't do it the way we're getting stagnated. We're going deeper and deeper in the hole. Folks, we got to have positive growth in St. Mary's to be able to finance all these things. And as far as the housing units, I think there needs to be more preparation with the developers when they come in and build. They need to be held responsible, held accountable for helping the city figure out how to do these and help finance it. I've lived here all my life. I've seen housing, residential places all over St. Mary's and Kingsland built right in the middle of a swamp. And then we have flooding issues, and we're wondering why. I can tell you why, because it's a big old swamp. It was a big old swamp. I used to squirrel hunt in there. I know. So we have a lot to think about on the infrastructure, the city, and the drainage. But we have got to increase our tax base.
Mr. Connor?
Well, I tell you, y'all had some good comments, no doubt about that. But you know something, the bottom line is we've got to grow. You know what I'm saying? We've got to have healthy, managed growth in St. Mary's, Georgia. Because if we don't have the money to be able to do all of these things, at the end of the day, we're going to be talking about it and nothing's going to be done. So hopefully, number one, we can grow and we can get more tax-based money to be able to handle these situations. The city stormwater management plan is approved and ready for implementation. What additional staff and infrastructure challenges do you foresee in the city to prepare for and accommodate the provision of the housing units? Where do you want to start? I mean, I see problems left and right. I think everybody sees problems left and right. You know, if we're going to continue to build, the bottom line is we have to have a plan during that building phase, preferably prior to that building phase. You know, elevating homes. I don't know if that's, you know, my house happens to be on 5 blocks, you know, all the way around, you know, and you know, some of the houses that were built in the 80s, I think Jay said something about that. And I know he didn't say this, but I'm going to say this. All of those houses are built level with the ground. You know what I'm saying? They're not built up at all, period. You know, we need to look at how we're building houses, in my opinion. You know, possibly that would be something that could help. But we've also got to make it attractive for people we need to make it more attractable for people to want to work in St. Mary's, for the city of St. Mary's. And we got to have businesses to make that happen. You know, we got people that's been making the same amount of money for the last 15 years in the city of St. Mary's. And heck, I mean, just like all the other candidates that said, we got to have growth, y'all. We got to have growth. We got to manage that growth, okay, in an efficient manner that's going to allow us to be able to take care of our city in the most efficient way possible. Thank y'all very much.
Thank you, Coach. So we've heard a lot of good ideas, and you know, I have some of my own, and a lot of them actually came from talking to people. You know, and that's, you know, what I feel, you know, city council is a servant to the people, and you know, getting a lot of good ideas together, and then just figuring out which ones are the most efficient or could work. You know, a lot of the things that we heard needing the growth. We do, but you know, St. Mary's, I know that they have a 5-year plan, but you know, I haven't, you know, been privy to going through and seeing what we are allocated for within that 5-year plan, and things that come up that aren't your normal annual expenses. But we've got to plan for this stuff in advance. You know, it's always best if you can pay, you know, obviously cash, but we got to, you know, have the people to do it. You know, Rayonier, we're looking at them at Exit 1 to bring some of the housing. Do we have the infrastructure, you know, ready for that? No, we don't. So there's going to be a lot of cost involved to get that going. And, you know, Rayonier, if we're bending over backwards for them, I'm pretty sure if we look at it, I think the city of Yulee is actually suing them for not following through on things that they've promised they would do in that subdivision itself. So, you know, who are we, you know, trying to bend over backwards for? But, you know, aside that, you know, when we're giving all these tax breaks to land the subdivision, where's the money going to come from that we do have to invest for the infrastructure and schools? You know, you're going to have close to 2,000 new people move in if this subdivision takes off. And you know, if we're doing a lot of tax allocations and the tax dollars are getting rewarded back to the builder, you know, the money's coming from the people that are already here. So that puts us even further in the hole. So, you know, I'm very pro, you know, giving the tax breaks for a business to open up, because the business opens up, you're going to get your money spent and revenues back in that manner. You know, we need head of household jobs in St. Mary's. You know, we've got a lot of big projects working. We've got a lot of stuff going to happen at the airport, the old airport facility. You know, we've got some industries coming that will bring some manufacturing jobs. You know, since the mill closed down, which, you know, we all know that, you know, it's been a long time now, we haven't had a new major employer come in. So, you know, if you don't live on the bay or work on the base, you know, there's, you know, not many head of household jobs available for citizens of St. Mary's. You know, me being from St. Mary's and going to, you know, off to school, well, over half my class wound up going off to school, be it in North Georgia, wherever the case may be, but they all live in Atlanta now or somewhere else because that's where the work was. Well, you know, we need to have jobs so that, you know, you don't have to necessarily send your grandkids off or not even send them off. They're already sent off. You know, if your children have to move away for work, your family is no longer from St. Mary's. It's from Atlanta or wherever they moved to, and then they come back to visit you and just know grandma and grandpa's from St. Mary. You know, that's where they came from. My parents lived there, but, you know, we're not St. Marians anymore. So we need the head of household jobs. You know, getting the head of household jobs and industry in, that is kind of a trickle down. I mean, there's going to be demand for housing, and build it up that way versus, you know, having to go in the hole and spending money for a subdivision to get here first.
Thank you. Question 3, the first responder will be Mr. Marino. Okay. Andrew, the mic. Question. I'll read it. Question 3. When necessary, the City Council addresses and resolves contentious issues. During your, can you not hear? I thought I was loud enough. Can I borrow it from you? This is not working. Thank you. Okay, so let me start over. When necessary, the City Council addresses and resolves contentious issues. During your life experiences, how have you demonstrated the temperament, flexibility, and interpersonal skills to help reach consensus?
I must say, quite honestly, that I haven't had an awful lot of such experiences outside of maybe my military experience as the leading chief petty officer of several units in the reserves. I'm not all that big on reaching consensus. If there's an issue where I'm at odds with the rest or the majority of the council, I'm going to simply argue as best I can my point of view and try to convince them to come over to my point of view. You know, if I win, I win. If I don't, I don't. However, that said, if it's something that I feel is exceedingly important to the citizens and I feel like the council is moving in the wrong direction, my intention after having argued it to the best of my ability in the meeting is to call on, assuming that whatever the issue is not passed that very night, if it's something that's continued, I would hope to call on enough of the citizens that the citizens themselves that favored my position might come forward and approach all of the different dissenting members of council and try to convince them to come over to my point of view. I'll give you an example of how that happened once. Some of you will probably remember when the Dr. Jeff Adams, PhD, was our city manager and came up with this cockamamie thing that he called form-based code. And under that deal, it was like a giant overarching HOA managed by the city. And it had some ridiculous things in it. Like, for instance, if you were a plumber, you couldn't park your truck in your own driveway if it had graphics on it. You had to hide it in the backyard behind a fence. If you had owned both a boat and a motorhome, you had to choose one. You could only keep one on your property, and you had to rent a space somewhere to store the other one. So that got leaked. and the citizens raised holy hell. It was like a scene out of the old Frankenstein movie where they're all, down there with pitchforks and torches. It was almost that serious, because I was there that night, and there were people back way down the hallway watching it out in the hall, and city council backed off of that. Well, Danny mentioned a minute ago that he's seen a lot of changes in City Hall. Yeah, I have too. And a lot of them date from that very night, because from that point forward, this mayor and council has gone out of their way to be as secretive as they possibly can. They are bringing things to a point that it's almost ready to be voted on, and we've not heard a thing in the world about it. And how are they doing it? They're doing it by serial violations of the Open Meetings Act. It's the only conceivable way that they can be doing it, ladies and gentlemen.
Okay. I'm kind of different from Jay when he talks about resolving issues with, continuous issues. Actually, this just took part of what my closing statement was going to be. I'm just the opposite. I feel like I have the ability from almost 40 years of management at White Oak and 17 years in the business world I have learned how to, sometimes we have to compromise when necessary, but I feel like we can get more with sugar than we can with vinegar. So I have the ability and the skills, and working in our business at Coastal Car Care with two other owners. I kind of get caught in the middle, and we go back and forth. We bounce things off each other, and we come sometimes to a compromise. And I have learned how to do that. And I think we can get more done with having leadership, the people skills, and try that, we're only one vote on that council. We got 5 other colleagues on there. And part of being on the council is being able to show that leadership and not fight with them. We can get our points across without fighting and being anti everything. I believe that with all my heart. I have that capability. I'm pretty easygoing. I get along with everybody, but what I believe in strongly. If I get backed in the corner, and I'm a lot of times I'm not going to change my mind. I feel so strongly about it. But Jay touched on the code enforcement, and I was just telling one of my committee volunteers the other day, as far as code enforcement goes, back 2 or 3 years ago when code enforcement, we were really having problems, I would like to just change one word. Instead of calling it code enforcement, call it code assistance. Instead of having a badge and a gun, going out on a job site where they're building a new restaurant, for crying out loud, and see how we can assist them, not bully them around and say, hey, we're going to shut your project down because you're not going by our ordinance. And I know I kind of got off the subject, but Jay mentioned that. Code enforcement, code assistance.
Thank you, Mr. Connor.
You know something? I've been in a leadership role for a long time. And, dealing with children for 38 years, I've had to make a lot of decisions. Being athletic director is a lot of work as far as organization, day-to-day organization. Now, what I want to say is going to be short and to the point. Okay? Me running for the city of St. Mary's is not about me. It's not about me. In other words, when I get on that, if I happen to win, if I get lucky enough to win, because I'm running against 2 great guys, if I'm lucky enough to win, I'm not going to take my own agenda in there. I may think about things, but on the other hand, the only way it's ever going to work in St. Mary's is we have a team working for one common goal. And that's the citizens of St. Mary's. It's not because of something I want to do, or you want to do, or Joe wants to do, or whatever. Coming up with the best thing for the majority of the citizens. And you may think, well, Steve, why do you say majority? Because regardless of what we do, we're not going to satisfy everybody. At the end of the day, we're not going to satisfy everybody. But I don't think it's important. I don't think it's a good thing to have your own agenda when you go in there. I think it's important to listen and come up with the very best thing that we can do for our citizens, because it's not about me. Running for City of St. Mary's is not running about me. It's running for you. Thank you.
All right, guys. Well, I've had some, time to put some thought into this a little bit as I'm, next to last. But this is something that I feel I'm very strong at. Life experiences aside career, but I'll start with that. I've been in sales leadership, sales growth, starting new markets, building, training sales teams, promoting new managers, promoting new leadership. And I don't know if you guys have been around a top salesperson, but they may have some of the biggest egos on the planet. And, that's been something I've had to manage for a long time, especially when one doesn't get his way, is, keeping him happy to be a part of the team to stay on it. And in outside sales, it's very easy to just, I didn't get a promotion over here. They just didn't give me what I wanted. And I'll just go work for somebody else, because there's plenty of people that, that'll hire you. So just holding things together has been something that I've been very good at. And, if there is some type of issue that I feel strongly about, I have the confidence that, I can have a sit down one-on-one and, have a good conversation with someone else that might be a, colleague on the council, to try to get them to at least see that this might be the best solution if they at first opposed it. So while sometimes I may bite my tongue in the better interest of getting, in the end, the way that I think is the best way to do it. I have that ability to do that. So while I may sometimes, not even be as vocal as some may think I should be as far as defending certain things, but, it's usually very tactful, because, as I believe Danny said, it's better to have sugar than honey, or whatever, just being nicer about things and not actually attacking somebody. And, you don't have to say that, spiteful thing to where, if I go over the top and I'm throwing everything that I want in your face, you might not, you're going to be more turned off by me at that point. So I do feel that I can manage those ways in a very good manner.
Thank you, Chad. The question is, during my life experiences, how have I demonstrated temperament, flexibility, interpersonal skills to help reach a consensus? After 26 years in nuclear submarines and the Navy, I've had a tremendous opportunity to work with many, many people, and frequently enclosed in a steel tube that had no apparent openings. Things happen under the water. They break. There are tremendous casualties that occur. That's when interpersonal skills really come into play. You have to bring together any number of people. You have to direct them. You have to make sure things are moving in the proper direction. And you have to recognize when you need the help, to ask for additional information. What are the facts? What is my end goal? What has to be done to get to that point? Throughout my career, the higher ranking officers recognized that after I climbed the enlisted ranks, I should consider going into the officer ranks. I did. I went into the warrant officer ranks. Then my commanding officer decided I should go further and go into the LDO ranks. And I did. And I retired finally as a lieutenant commander. Throughout my entire career, I have been tasked and challenged with coming up with best decisions, putting together teams, brainstorming in order to come to a viable conclusion that's going to meet the end goal. Not every time was everyone pleased with the way we had to go about doing it, but the end goal was what we looked at the end of the road. How do we get there? Put together a plan, move forward, and get it done.
Thank you. We are now at question 4, and Mr. Riggins will be the first respondent. Mr. Jelly, I'm right behind you. Okay. Question 4. The City of St. Mary's is building a public marina. Should the operation and maintenance of this recreational service and facility be self-sustaining or augmented with local tax dollars? Please explain. Mr. Riggins.
Another good question. Well, I'm not for too much for spending taxpayer dollars on anything unless it's very, very necessary. We have somewhat of a nice marina being built down there. I personally feel that it should be self-sustaining. I mean, why build it if it can't take care of itself? I believe it needs to be more than just a place to tie a boat up to. It needs to be self-sustaining, and at the same time be able to attract more boaters in there. And you know, the operation and the maintenance of that facility could be astronomical if we're not careful. I'm just not for spending local tax dollars, just throwing money at something. If we're going to build something, we should have a way to finance it. It should be self-sustainable. If it's not, then we got a problem. I don't think we need to, I mean, we're already having problem, people with, you know, paying support staff, finding the help, mowing the grass, digging the ditches, and we don't need another a project where we got to figure out where's the money going to come from. We're talking about how are we going to get more money, and then, you know, not how are we going to spend more money. So I, for one, I'm glad the marina is there. I think it's a great opportunity for, if it is managed and promoted in a very positive way, I believe it can be self-sustainable and attract a lot of the boaters. I mean, you go down there on Thanksgiving Day, and there's just hundreds of boats and sailboats in that river, people coming from all around the world. So there's no reason why can't we be like Ferndale, their marina? So I, for one, I'm not crazy about spending tax dollars on a new project like that right now.
Nope, you last. Mr. Carter.
The downtown marina where we're talking about the Gateway property. Yes, ma'am. I don't, you know something, I'll be honest with you, I haven't even went down there to see.
If I may, this is where I have to get heavy-handed. So we'll answer. We'll finish with the questions, and we'll have some time afterwards so that you can have some follow-up. Okay. All right. No problem, sir. Thank you.
Well, I think what we need to do first is to find out the definition of, how much it's going to cost to run the thing. You know what I'm saying? I mean, if we're talking about can it be self-sustaining, that's a big question because we don't have any idea what the cost of running that marina is going to be. Number one, I hadn't seen anything in the paper about what's going on with it. Or are they going to have a person down there to run the marina, et cetera, et cetera? And I think a lot of people in St. Mary's are saying, it looks like it's completed. What's next? I think they need to be a tad bit more transparent on what's going on. You know what I'm saying? But for us to be able to say, well, will it be self-sustaining? You don't know that until it starts. You know what I'm saying? I mean, the bottom line is that's a big question mark in my opinion. So if it's not going to be self-sustaining, where's the money coming from? Where's the money coming from? I would like to see the plan that they have, that they originated with, that tells us what they're going to do with it, how they're going to do it, how much they're going to charge people. Will there be fuel present down there to be able to fuel up the boats? Right now, we've got more variables than we have anything. That's just my 2 cents. I want to make sure I answer all this, okay? Should the operation and maintenance recreation service... And as far as using our local tax dollars, I'm not for using local tax dollars. But on the other hand, if it's not sustaining itself, where are we going to get the money from, folks? That's the question. So I reckon we have to, just stand around and see what's going on because right now there's so many variables with that. I really can't say one way or the other, Thank you.
So some things have been touched on here, and like probably most everybody sitting on the panel, I don't have all the details, and that's something that I would like, to be able to go through is the details. But, I'm not, really for the city of St. Mary's trying to be in business. And, if we're asking if a marina could be self-sustaining, well, a marina should be more than self-sustaining. A marina should actually turn a profit. That's the whole point of having a business. I mean, there's marinas all up and down the coast, and those marinas are either self-sustaining and actually profitable, or they're going out of business and selling to somebody else that's going to buy it. So we're already in the position that we're in, but, right now, the city of St. Mary's, it seems to be that, it's going to have the business looking for a dock master and, all the liabilities on the city of St. Mary's. So if that's the direction we're going to continue and maintain, then someone, dock master in charge needs to be able to make that a profitable business, or we have to find someone else to do it. There's all kinds of things you could just say, spitballing without, again, having all the information on it. But, I would be more in favor if it is going to be the city's own property to, lease this business out to someone that's going to just pay the city for the usage of the property and pass off liability of things that could happen at that marina onto a private industry and not the, taxpayers.
Thank you, Chad. Should the facility be self-sustaining? To answer that question, I really need to see their business plan. I need to know what are they doing moving forward? Where's the initial investment? What's the return coming in? What services are being provided? How much maintenance is going to be involved? So that question really is almost impossible to answer without understanding their business plan. The second part of the question is, should it be augmented with local tax dollars? No, because I've seen so many marinas operating with such a huge profit, I have never, up and down the East Coast anyway, and maybe twice on the West Coast, been involved with marinas that were not profitable in and of themselves. A marina, by definition, attracts boats and boat owners, sells fuel, sells necessities, provides services, shore services. All of these come at a cost to the boat owner. I don't believe that the city of St. Mary's should be tasked with augmenting the operation of a marina. Now, that said, it may be feasible, it may be judicious to look at having a rainy day fund in the event that something catastrophic occurs to the marina. And we don't want that to completely fail as a result of Mother Nature or some other disaster. So maybe we want to have a fund to be able to bolster that marina back up if necessary. But to answer the first question, it really does need to be self-sustaining. I see no reason why it can't be. And moving forward, my answer is no, let's not augment this marina.
Mr. Marino.
Thank you. The fact is that we really want, once we, commit to this thing, we're really not going to have a choice as far as whether or not we augment it. What are we going to do? Just close it down one day and say, hey, we're not getting enough revenues, ergo we're going to close it. We don't get enough revenue for the little kiddie water park by the library to be self-sustaining, but we certainly augment the cost of that. Let me just say that I'm categorically opposed to the whole concept of public-private partnerships to begin with, but we're already on that horse and we can't get off, apparently. The plans are for a good bit more dockage down there than what exists right now. Put yourself in the position of somebody that's yachting up and down the Intracoastal Waterway and picture what's available in downtown Fernandina and what's available in Brunswick. I submit to you that the only way that we're going to divert that yacht off of the Intracoastal Waterway to downtown St. Mary's is if our dockage rates are considerably lower than those in Fernandina and Brunswick, because it's just more within walking distance of the docks. They've got a lot more to offer in Fernandina and Brunswick. There's a huge marina, privately run marina in Brunswick, by the way. Yeah, I'm all in favor of having, all the fueling and what have you down there, maybe even some laundry, like coin-operated laundry facilities and so forth. We should do that. But as far as being augmented, I just think that's unavoidable. The first thing they need to do, after checking the wells on the hinges on all the ramps, of course, is to go on down there to Fernandina and up to Brunswick and look and see what they're charging and what amenities they have. We can't be competitive if we don't know what the competition is doing. And I'm not sure if they've done that yet or not, but I intend to find out. Thank you.
Okay, no, that's okay. We're up to question number 5, and Mr. Connor, you will be first. There you go. So question 5. Of the following challenges for an elected official, what is your top priority and why? Increasing economic development, preserving the local culture, or improving local government operations? And Mr. Connor.
Well, when I look at that, it says of the following challenges for the elected official: increasing economic development, preserving the local culture, improving local government operations. I think they're all important to a certain extent. We certainly need to increase economic development. We need to make it make our area more attractive for that. Preserving the local culture. I believe we can do that with growth. I believe we can do that, because if we're in a situation where we can manage growth, which that's the only way to grow, is to manage it, in my personal opinion, then it's not gonna hurt our local culture, in my opinion. And improving local government operations, there's always improvement needed, regardless of what it may be in life. I need to improve. We all need to improve. But with our government operations, heck yeah, we need to improve. No ifs, buts, or maybes about it. But we have to be able to work together, everyone on city council, to make sure that happens. Working on city council, you got to be open-minded. You got to listen to other people, and you've got to make the decisions that are the best for everyone in St. Mary's, or the majority. I don't think I was holding that too close, was I?
We're getting feedback from the speaker. It's turning around.
Okay, thank you, Tom. But I think all three of those are important, y'all. I could go talk for 20 minutes on that, and this, that, and the other. But they're all important. Maybe the least amount would be the preserving the local culture. We certainly want to do that. Okay, we want to make absolute sure we do that, and we have to work hand in hand with this whole operation, and hopefully we can go in one direction. Thank you all very much.
Okay, so out of these three things that are all very important, I know that it would be, for some people, increasing economic development and preserving local culture, could be the opposite sides of the coin, but they don't have to be. We can have, the increased economic development that we need and still maintain St. Mary's and what it is, and preserve the things that need to be preserved. But, of these three things, the one I haven't said yet, improving local government operations, that can kind of help, with, all three of these things. St. Mary's, whether true or not, and I'm a local. I've got a lot of local friends that have local businesses, have put on local events, myself included, and then some other builders, that are in towns. The builders that, a lot of local builders in the county, we'll just say the whole county, if they had a choice, that they wouldn't build here in St. Mary's, that they would prefer to build somewhere else. They have what they call extra hoops to jump through, extra things that they're doing here in St. Mary's, that I guess St. Mary's, points that they're just holding up to state guidelines. Well, Kingsland's interpreting those a little bit different, our sister city right over there, and it just seems that local builders would prefer to build in Kingsland. They can get the house built faster, and have a lower blood pressure building in Kingsland than building in St. Mary's. So improving just government operations, improving. We have a lot of good, fine people down there that are just enforcing what they're told to enforce. Well, we just need to take a step back and make sure we're using the most common sense on these things. And kind of like Danny said, which I'd probably wind up stealing at some point, is like code enforcement, having code insistence. I've had multiple people talk about things they've submitted for a building permit or an addition, and they get 3 or 4 rejections. But what they don't get is, well, if you could just do this instead, or, and just have a regular conversation with somebody about what, is important to you and what's important to the code, that's like getting this thing turned down, and come up with a reasonable solution. And, in some cases, make reasonable exemptions. If it's impossible to really get within an exact code, if it's not detrimental, use some common sense and, make some, approvals to go outside the box if need be, based off somebody's property size, if they don't have that space available to do something you're telling them they can't do. So definitely improving local government operations. And I think that, if we can do that, it actually, fixes the other two as well.
Thank you, Chad. The question asks, What is your top priority? Let's first look at preserving the local culture. Certainly very important. Needs to be done. How does that happen? How does the city preserve local culture? Money, cost. Infrastructure is needed. More infrastructure is needed in order to increase our tax base so that the income that the city has is greater than it is now. And in order to preserve the local culture, that bill doesn't fall on our residents. Improving local government operations. If the top priority is economic development, then preserving the local culture comes hand in hand because your tax base has increased. The city is getting more money. The city can help to maintain our local culture. And with increased revenue and an increased tax base, what goes hand in hand is an improvement in our local government. Our local government right now is very limited in what they can do and cannot do because of money. Let's increase that tax base. Let's bring in the right kind of larger businesses in the right location to attract the right kind of people here to St. Mary's, to attract visitors. Remember, St. Mary's has something Fernandina does not have. St. Mary's has something Brunswick does not have.